The last reading that we'll take a look at for talking about Marx's critique of art and Marxist critique of art comes from an essay by Walter Benjamin. In your textbook, it's entitled A Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction. It's chapter 14 in your textbook. In this section, Walter Benjamin talks about a problem that he sees with the commodification, with turning art itself into something that can be purchased, which he sees as a side effect of a capitalist society and the machinery that creates products for us to consume, and an attitude that it creates in us of consumption rather than one of appreciation of things for what they are in their cultural significance. So the main problem for Benjamin: reproduction and marketing of art cheapens the artistic experience for all of humanity. Now, Benjamin will claim that a traditional work of art has these properties. It's always situated in an environment, so a work of art gets its meaning in part from the culture and environment in which it exists. That environment gives it an experiential quality as well as a meaning, and Benjamin refers to this collectively as the aura of a work of art. We could use something like the Sistine Chapel to illustrate this idea. This is a picture of the Sistine Chapel and the famous frescoes by Michelangelo. Here is the famous creation of Adam. It's reproduced here as well. You see God reaching out to Adam in the creation of the universe. A lot could be said about the artistic style and symbolism, the relationship of God to man as depicted here. But one thing we can say for sure is that part of the power of this image isn't just the image itself, but it's the way in which it relates to the cultural significance of the Sistine Chapel, which is basically the chapel of the Pope, the center of Roman Catholic Christianity, with this huge history and this huge cultural significance that you experience when you go to visit the Vatican. Of course, the way most of us experience the frescoes in the Sistine Chapel is not by going to visit the Vatican and experiencing the cultural context in which the frescoes were created and in which they still exist, but it's by seeing mechanical reproductions of the Sistine Chapel. And the Sistine Chapel itself becomes and the art in it becomes a kind of commodity that can be sold to us. Benjamin's worry is that in a situation like this, the aura of the object disappears. There's not a sense of a sacred site within which you're witnessing this important art. Instead, it's something that's reproduced anywhere and everywhere and disconnected from that cultural context. Another issue for Benjamin is that the artistic experience no longer has that deep cultural meaning, but we're encouraged to take that art and to give it our own individual meaning, a meaning that's just for us, about our experience, and that meaning is devoid of the important cultural context. A related issue for Benjamin is the idea that capitalism and the mechanical reproduction of art encourages us to want to own that art, rather than appreciating the work of art for what it is in its context. We want it to be something that we own, that belongs to us, even though art can never belong to the individual, and its meaning depends on the context in which it was created and where it exists. So who cares about aura and history if there's an opportunity here to make money off of this thing and to spread it around the world by reproducing art mechanically? Well, Benjamin will claim that when we get rid of the profound cultural experience of art, it's replaced with just fleeting, individualistic stimulation. He refers to this as a fire sale of our cultural values. As if we were taking all of the stuff that it took all of human history up until now to create, all this valuable, contextualized, historical, and cultural material, and just asking, okay, so much for history, so much for culture. What can we cash this out as? How much can we get by taking this and selling it on the cheap to make money now? Might think of something like the Mayan ruins on the Yucatan Peninsula. Chichen Itza has intense cultural significance for the Mayan civilization in Mexico. It's built relative to these sacred underground aquifers with a lot of spiritual and cultural meaning. It's oriented relative to the stars in a way that gives its location and the experience of visiting it in that location an intense part of the cultural value and an intense part of what it should mean to experience the value and power of that place in that situation. But at the same time, there's this understandable pressure to turn something like Chichen Itza into a commodity, into something that can be sold. And for the tourists, when they experience the thing itself, rather than experiencing the profound spiritual impact of the place, just to be asking, how can I take part of this home? How can I own it? How can I take the experience with me and recontextualize it within my own cultural situation without necessarily ever even experiencing the work of art in its context? This also reminded me of something like Leonardo's famous painting, the Mona Lisa. Most students who I've talked to who have visited the Mona Lisa at the Louvre in Paris have been actually let down or disappointed by seeing it. We're exposed to it so often in so many cultural contexts that are meaningless. To try to sell something or tell a joke or give the Mona Lisa a mustache. And most people, when they go to see it, all they really want to do is take a picture of it and go on. But the cultural context and the historical significance of it relative to someone like Leonardo tends to be lost on us, and we try to again mechanically reproduce it and post it to everyone to show them what we experienced, never taking the chance to really experience it for what it is.